There's a chair in your house no one sits in, but you haven't moved it either. It's just there. Part of the room. Familiar, but uninviting. And maybe, without realizing it, it's taking up space where something better could grow. That's how some habits work. They settle in quietly. Not loud. Not wrong. Just they're occupying space in your day, your mind, your energy. We talk a lot about working hard, staying positive, setting goals. And yet, for many people, especially those who've lived a full, hard-working life, money still feels like a visitor that never stays long. It shows up, then disappears. You plan. You save. You try to do everything right. But something still feels stuck, as if wealth is moving past your door without stopping. This video isn't about manifesting miracles or overnight success. It's not about hustling more or pretending money is just a mindset. It's about something quieter, more practical. I want to show you 6 habits, not loud habits, but subtle ones. Habits that don't just influence your bank account, but shift how wealth energy flows through your life. Habits that quietly build real, sustainable prosperity over time. Because here's the truth, most people don't fail because they're lazy. They drift because the structure around them doesn't support wealth energy to stay. It leaks, it scatters, and they don't even notice until years go by. What if, just like a drafty window or a blocked hallway, there are tiny parts of your daily life quietly misdirecting opportunity? If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but the results don't reflect your effort, this isn't about motivation, it's about alignment. And you might already have some of these habits within you, you just haven't named them yet. Let's name them. Let's open the right doors. And this time, let's make sure wealth doesn't just visit, it feels welcome enough to stay. Sign 1. Value isn't in effort. It's in how lighter others feel around you. There's a moment most of us have lived through, but we rarely talk about it. You're doing everything right. You show up. You stay late. You double check, follow through, clean up. You care. You're reliable. And still there's no raise, no real thank you, and maybe worst of all, no change. You're still stuck, still tired, still wondering what else can I possibly give. We've been taught that effort equals value. That if we just try harder, prove ourselves, do more, be more, then success will follow. But effort, on its own, isn't the magnet we were promised. That's a hard truth. And for those of us who've lived decades holding the weight of families, jobs, expectations, it can feel like betrayal. You gave your best. Where's the return? Here's where the shift begins. Value is not about how hard you work. It's about how much lighter others feel because of what you do. That's it. That's the whole secret. Quiet, simple, but powerful. Because when people feel lighter around you, they open up. They return. They tell others. They invest. They stay. Think about it, the barista who remembers your name and smiles genuinely. Maybe she's not the fastest, but you go back. The friend who listens without fixing you, who doesn't need to talk over you, who just lets you be. The handyman who shows up when he says he will, doesn't overcharge, and leaves the space better than he found it. These are not flashy people, but they carry a kind of magnetic energy. They leave others feeling a bit more human, a bit more hopeful, a bit more held. And that is value. When you understand this, your entire energy shifts. You stop asking, did I do enough? And start noticing, did I bring clarity, calm, relief into someone's day? Because that is what people remember. Not your hustle, not how many hours you clocked, but how they felt after you left the room. Now, this doesn't mean you need to become a therapist or a people pleaser. Quite the opposite. It means you tune into your own calm. You bring presence into what you're doing. You stop rushing to impress, and instead slow down just enough to connect. That's what truly changes the air in a room. And yes, this applies to business, to money, to wealth. Because people pay for clarity, for trust, for ease. And when you consistently deliver that, money has a reason to stay, not just arrive. The reason many hardworking, intelligent people struggle financially isn't because they're lazy. It's because their energy is tight, transactional. I did this, why hasn't life paid me back? But value doesn't work like a vending machine. It works like a garden. You give without pressure. You water the ground with care. And when the roots are ready, things grow. The energy that repels money the fastest is resentment, Bitterness. That "why should I bother if no one appreciates me" energy. You can feel it in someone's tone, even when they smile. It's subtle, but it blocks the flow. The opposite, quiet generosity, quiet clarity, that's what opens space. You don't have to give endlessly. In fact, the most magnetic people have strong boundaries. But they're clean. They don't give with strings. They don't expect applause. They simply know who they are, what they offer, and they offer it well. And here's the real turning point: this kind of value isn't complicated. You don't need to reinvent yourself or take a course. You just need to notice. Notice where people sigh with relief around you. Notice what small things you do that make others feel more seen, more safe, more steady. And then do those things more. With intention, with care, with pride, not in the loud sense, but the quiet kind that says, "I know what I'm doing helps, even if no one claps." Maybe your gift is clarity. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's your ability to explain hard things simply, or calm a room, or organize chaos. You don't need to wait for someone to label it valuable. You need to treat it like it is. Because money follows conviction, not noise. And slowly but steadily what you offer will return to you. Not always through the same people, not on the timeline you want, but it will. Because energy always loops back. The people who stay in bitterness never build momentum. The people who stay steady, who give where they're strong, who keep refining the value they bring, they become unavoidable. And that's when money, trust, referrals, invitations begin to show up. Let me ask you this: when was the last time someone felt lighter after interacting with you? Not because you solved their problem, but because you were calm in the middle of theirs. When was the last time someone said, "You make things feel possible again," or simply breathed easier in your presence? That's wealth energy. That's where it begins. Wealth is not loud. It's not urgent. It doesn't rush. It looks for places to stay. Environments that feel steady. Energy that doesn't chase. People who carry value, not perform it. So don't worry if no one noticed your extra hours, if the effort went unseen. Maybe it wasn't wasted, maybe it just wasn't grounded in value. The good news: you get to shift that now. You get to slow down, soften your edges, and ask one quiet question: what is it like to be around me? And if the answer is, it feels lighter, then the flow has already begun. Sign 2. Decisions don't need to be right. They need to be clear. There's a quiet kind of pain that doesn't look dramatic, but it lingers. It sounds like this: what if I choose wrong? What if I mess everything up? What if I wait just a little longer, and then the answer will be clearer? That's how so many of us end up stuck, not because we lack intelligence, but because we're holding our lives hostage to the illusion of the perfect choice. You see, no one teaches us this, but it's a truth that quietly divides those who grow wealth from those who don't. Most missed opportunities didn't slip away because of a bad decision. They vanished because of indecision. The window opened, the moment called. And we hesitated, thinking, researching, doubting, until the moment passed. Again, in the world of energy, there's a difference between motion and momentum. Motion is when you're busy. Momentum is when every step moves you forward. Clear decisions create momentum. They signal to life that you're ready. They open a direction and let energy flow. Confused decisions, ones you delay, second guess, revisit over and over, clog that flow. It's like a faucet that's never fully on. The water never comes strong enough to fill anything. Clarity doesn't mean you know everything. It means you've chosen where you stand, even if that means learning along the way. Wealth doesn't wait for perfection. It flows where there's movement, courage, and willingness to course correct if needed. Ironically, the people who overthink every move are often the ones who never get to test their ideas in the real world. Meanwhile, the ones who decide, adjust, and move again build experience, and that experience becomes wisdom, resilience, and eventually wealth. Think about how many hours, months, or even years have slipped by while you waited for certainty. Not just in money, but in relationships, career shifts, personal goals. Maybe next year. Maybe when I feel more ready. But readiness doesn't arrive at your doorstep. It's built in motion. You feel clear by walking the path, not by staring at it. Now, let's talk about the fear underneath all this. Because it's not really about the decision itself. It's about what you believe will happen if you get it wrong. Will people judge you? Will you lose money? Will you look foolish? Will you disappoint someone? Those fears are real, but here's the shift. A decision doesn't have to lead to success to be valuable. It only has to lead you forward. Even failure teaches. Even a wrong turn shows you something new. But staying in the maybe teaches you nothing, except how to delay your own life. Wealthy people aren't fearless, but they have a different kind of courage. They trust that no door is final. They know how to pivot. And more importantly, they don't tie their identity to every decision. They don't need every move to be perfect, just honest. Just intentional. They don't wait for clarity to arrive. They choose to create it. And you can too. You can begin with small decisions. Clean ones. I'm doing this, and I'll see what it teaches me. No apology. No over-explaining. Just quiet conviction. Watch what happens when your energy stops wobbling. You'll notice others start responding differently. Opportunities will land. People will listen. Life starts trusting you when you show that you trust yourself. So, what's the decision you've been circling around? The one you've prayed on, journaled about, asked advice for again and again, but still haven't made? How much energy has it already drained from you? How many times have you rethought it before bed, only to push it aside the next morning? Now imagine this. What if the clarity you're seeking isn't a perfect answer, but simply a line you draw in the sand? A moment when you say, I'll find out by doing, not just thinking. That's how energy begins to gather. That's how your internal compass sharpens. Not by getting it all right, but by getting moving. Because clarity is an energy. And when you carry it, you become a place wealth wants to land. Not because you're flawless, but because you're focused. And in a world full of hesitation, your steadiness becomes magnetic. So don't wait for the perfect sign. Be the sign. Decide. Walk, readjust, repeat. Wealth will catch up. It always does to those who are in motion. Sign 3. Risk isn't the danger, delay is. Most people aren't afraid of risk. Not really. What they're afraid of is losing something they already have. The job that pays the bills. The savings they worked hard for. The fragile sense of security they've built over the years. Risk threatens that. But here's the truth most don't want to admit: delay threatens it even more. You see, risk is a moment. Delay is a pattern. Risk shows up, asks you to choose, and then passes. Delay lingers. It becomes a habit, a mindset, a way of life. And that's what slowly drains your courage, your confidence, and eventually, your wealth. Think about this: how many chances in your life didn't really go wrong, they just never went anywhere? The house you almost bought but didn't. The business idea you sat on too long. The investment you researched to death while the opportunity passed. The market moved. Someone else acted. And now it's gone. Not because you failed, but because you froze. In American life, we're trained to be careful, to weigh every pro and con, to protect what we have. And that's understandable. Many of us have lived through recessions, job losses, family emergencies. We've learned that life can pull the rug out from under us. But here's the danger: when caution becomes your default, it turns into paralysis. And in that frozen state, nothing grows. Wealthy people don't have fewer fears. They just move through them faster. They understand that risk is part of the path, not a sign to stop. And more importantly, they prepare for it. They don't leap blindly. They run scenarios. They set limits. But they move. That's the difference. They don't let the unknown become a cage. Because delay doesn't just cost time, it costs clarity. The longer you wait, the more distorted everything looks. You begin to question your gut. You start gathering more and more information, hoping for certainty. But the truth is, the more you think without acting, the less confident you become. You drown in what ifs, never realizing that action itself creates the answers you're waiting for. We often say, timing is everything. But timing only matters if you move when it's right. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people miss their timing, not because they didn't see it, but because they didn't trust themselves to act on it. That's not a lack of strategy, it's a leak in self-trust. And when you don't trust yourself, even small risks feel dangerous. You overprotect. You stay with what's familiar. You repeat old patterns, even when they don't serve you. And the worst part? You start calling it being responsible, when really it's just fear in a more polished outfit. Now, this doesn't mean you should chase every shiny thing. Not at all. But there's a difference between reckless risk and intentional movement. Smart risk takers don't bet the house. They build safety nets, they diversify, they calculate, but they also understand that waiting for life to become safe is like waiting for the ocean to go still before you swim. It doesn't happen. You move through the waves. You learn to breathe inside uncertainty, not avoid it. There's something else delay steals from you: momentum. That precious energy that builds when you act consistently. Every time you delay, you lose a bit of that rhythm. And when the rhythm goes, so does the confidence, the trust, the drive. You start needing motivation just to take the smallest steps. And over time, your dreams shrink not because you didn't deserve them, but because you didn't keep moving toward them. Here's what wealthy people know: the pain of a small loss is nothing compared to the regret of years wasted. A $5,000 mistake can be recouped. 10 years of almost cannot. Because time is not just ticking, it's shaping who you're becoming. And every delay teaches your brain that hesitation is safer than courage. That one day is more comfortable than today. And before you know it, someday becomes never. So how do you shift? Start by reframing risk. Don't see it as danger, see it as dialogue. It's life asking, are you ready to grow? If the answer is yes, then step in, not recklessly, but clearly. Set your boundary lines. Know your numbers. Have your safety plan. But move. Movement builds resilience. Action builds clarity. And momentum builds wealth. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding because I don't want to feel uncomfortable? Where have I let fear dress up as logic? And most importantly, what would I already have if I had acted 1 year earlier? That question alone is powerful. Not to shame you, but to awaken something. Because if you don't want to ask that same question again next year, the answer is simple. You move now, imperfectly, intentionally, even if your hands shake, because risk doesn't drain you. Delay does. Risk is energy, delay is stagnation, and wealth doesn't grow in still water. So choose the wave. Learn to ride it. Build your balance. Because no matter how strong your vision is, without motion it will always stay a dream. Sign 4. Holding back isn't lack, it's space. You don't need to spend less. You need to pause long enough to ask, do I even want this, or am I just filling space? That one question can change the direction of your finances, your energy, even your peace of mind. Because sometimes, what looks like holding back isn't fear, it's wisdom. What looks like restraint isn't lack, it's intention. And what feels like emptiness is actually space, sacred space for something better to grow. We live in a culture that praises fullness. Full calendars, full closets, full carts. The more we do, the more we buy, the more we show we think, the more we are. But here's the truth: fullness without direction is just noise. And noise drowns out clarity. It leaves no room for wealth to land because there's no place for it to breathe. And yes, money breathes. It needs oxygen, space in your life, your time, your thoughts. Some people spend not because they need, but because they're afraid of the quiet that follows restraint. The silence that asks, what if I just sit with what I already have? That silence can feel uncomfortable at first. But that's only because we've been conditioned to see stillness as lack. Stillness as weakness. But real wealth doesn't rush. It waits. It watches. It arrives when the foundation is calm. Wealthy people are not stingy, but they are strategic. They understand that every dollar held is not a denial, it's a direction. Every not yet is a form of strength. They build space in their financial systems, the same way good architecture builds breathing room into a house. Open corners, light, flow. Not every inch covered, not every wall stacked, because even the most expensive furniture means nothing in a room that can't breathe. We're not just talking about money, we're talking about energy. Space is energy. And where there's space, there's potential. But where there's clutter, physical, emotional, financial wealth doesn't know where to settle. It keeps moving, looking for a home that feels ready. Not desperate, not impulsive, just steady. So what does that look like in real life? It looks like skipping the sale, not because you're broke, but because you're not buying the illusion of value. It looks like staying in a car that works without shame, because you're choosing investments that grow, not just shine. It looks like letting a room stay unfinished until the right item finds you instead of rushing to fill it with noise. These choices don't scream rich, but they speak of someone who's not swayed by appearances. Someone building something deeper. Holding back can feel unnatural at first, especially if you grew up equating money with reward, with comfort, with a kind of instant reassurance. We all want to feel like we're doing well, that life is moving forward, and purchases can create a temporary high that mimics progress. But it's not always real movement. Sometimes it's just motion, and motion, without meaning, leaves us tired but unchanged. That's the turning point, when you realize that real wealth doesn't come from proving you can spend, it comes from choosing not to. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. Out of trust in your long game. Out of respect for what you're actually building. When you can pause, hold, observe, and let your financial life breathe, you're not behind. You're ahead. You're doing what few people have the discipline to do, make space without panic. And here's the emotional truth most won't say out loud: there's grief in restraint. There's grief in watching others upgrade, travel, glow up while you choose to wait. While you say not now. But that grief doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're awake. It means you're not numbing yourself with consumption. You're present. You're choosing long-term freedom over short-term validation. And that is quiet power. Because eventually, the day comes when you walk into the space you protected physically, financially, emotionally, and you realize this is where wealth was always meant to grow. In the clear, in the calm, in the space you once called empty, but now recognize as fertile. And suddenly, you don't need to explain your restraint to anyone. You don't feel the urge to catch up, because you know you weren't behind. You were preparing. You were letting your soil rest. You were holding back not out of lack, but to make room for alignment, for stability, for energy that stays. So if today you find yourself spending less, holding off, moving slowly, don't mistake it for scarcity. Don't rush to fill the silence. Sit in it. Listen to it. That space you're preserving might just be the very container where wealth wants to land, not as noise, not as clutter, but as calm, committed flow. Let this be the sign you needed. Holding back is not giving up. It's building up, quietly, steadily, and when the time is right, powerfully. Sign 5. Learning doesn't end when you know enough. It begins when you realize you never do. There's a quiet moment that happens to all of us. You read another article, watch another video, sit through another training, and a voice inside you says, "I already know this." It sounds harmless. Sometimes it even feels empowering, like you've grown beyond the basics. But that voice, if left unchecked, doesn't lead to mastery. It leads to stagnation. Because learning doesn't end when you know enough. It begins when you realize you never do. You see, knowledge isn't a trophy you collect. It's a tool you sharpen, over and over. And wisdom, true wisdom, doesn't come from knowing more than others. It comes from being humble enough to learn from everything, and everyone, all the time. In a culture that praises experts and achievements, it's easy to fall into the trap of already knowing. But that mindset quietly closes doors. Not just to new information, but to transformation. Because the people who grow the most aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who stay curious, who question, who observe without assumption, who ask, even when they already have a good guess. Because they're not collecting facts, they're refining themselves. Wealthy people understand this. They don't just study money. They study behavior, energy, environments. They study themselves. They know that the market changes. People change. They change. And so they keep their internal systems flexible. They adapt. Not because they're behind, but because they want to stay ahead. Not just of trends, but of their own habits, blind spots, patterns. Lifelong learning isn't just about taking more classes. It's about how you live. It's how you enter a room. Do you bring certainty or curiosity? It's how you face discomfort. Do you double down on what you know or open up to what you don't? Learning is less about gaining answers and more about learning to sit with better questions. Let's be honest, unlearning is often harder than learning. Letting go of the idea that this is how it's always been, or this worked for me once, so it always will. That takes maturity. It takes courage. And yet, the people who do that work are the ones who build wealth that lasts. Because their systems don't crumble when something changes. They bend, they move, they expand. Think of your life like a garden. You don't just plant once and walk away. You prune, you water, you pull weeds. That's learning. Quiet, ongoing care. It's not always exciting, it's not dramatic, but it keeps things alive, keeps them growing. Some people chase new information like a rush course after course, podcast after podcast, hoping knowledge will make them feel more in control. Others avoid it completely, thinking they've heard it all before. But real learners don't chase or avoid. They absorb, slowly, intentionally. They apply what fits, reflect on what doesn't. And they always ask, how can I see this differently today than I did a year ago? That question changes everything. Because when you're a true learner, your home becomes a classroom. Your relationships become mirrors. Your mistakes become mentors. Even silence teaches you. And you no longer need to be right. You just want to be real. That's the shift. Now here's the emotional truth. Staying open to learning also means staying open to change. And change can be uncomfortable. It can threaten your identity, your certainty, your sense of pride. But without change, there is no evolution. Without humility, there is no space for wisdom to land. And without learning, there is no wealth, not the kind that lasts. Wealth isn't just built with strategies. It's built with perspective. The ability to see what others miss, to adjust when others cling, to grow when others settle. That's not about IQ. That's about openness. And it begins the moment you say, maybe I don't know as much as I thought. And maybe that's a good thing. So ask yourself gently, when was the last time you let something or someone teach you without needing to be above it? When was the last time you changed your mind not because you were wrong, but because you were ready for a deeper truth? If it's been a while, that's okay. This is your reminder that learning isn't a race. It's a rhythm. Some seasons are fast. Some are quiet. What matters is that you stay in the dance. Keep asking, keep noticing, keep softening where you once held tight. And soon, without fanfare, you'll look back and realize your thinking is clearer. Your decisions feel smoother. Your reactions calmer. That's the wealth learning builds. Not just in your bank account, but in your being. So stay teachable. Stay open. Let the world keep showing you new angles of old ideas. Let yourself outgrow what once worked. Let learning be less about answers and more about movement. Because when your mind is still learning, your life is still expanding. And in that expansion, wealth flows not as a reward for knowing it all, but as a response to your willingness to stay in wonder. Sign 6. Clutter isn't mess, it's energy that no longer moves. You don't have to believe in energy to feel it. You know when a room feels heavy. When a corner collects more than dust, it holds something old. Something stuck. It might be a drawer you never open, a box in the garage you haven't touched in years, a shelf full of maybe someday. That's not just mess. That's movement that's been stopped. That's energy that no longer flows. Clutter is never just physical. It's emotional, mental, even spiritual. And the longer it stays, the more it whispers a message you don't mean to send. I'm not ready to release. I'm not ready to receive. You see, most people think clutter is just untidiness. Something that makes a room less pretty. But the real cost of clutter is deeper. It slows down your clarity. It crowds your decisions. It creates a hum of stress in the background of your life, even when you're not looking at it directly. Because on some level, your body remembers every item you've delayed dealing with, every choice you've avoided, every object that holds a story you haven't closed. And the truth is, wealth does not like chaos. It doesn't settle in noise. It doesn't stay in places that feel overstuffed, overstretched, or overwhelmed. Just like a guest doesn't feel welcome in a room with no space to sit, abundance doesn't land where there's no room to breathe. But this isn't about minimalism or owning less for the sake of being trendy. It's about alignment. When your physical environment holds only what you love, use, and respect, your mind follows. You think clearer. You choose better. You move with more ease. And that ease, that's what wealth flows toward. Not excess, not perfection, just space and steadiness. Let's be real, clutter builds up for reasons. Emotional reasons, sentimental attachments, fear of waste, guilt. What if I need it again? Someone gave this to me. It's not broken. But here's a reframe. Just because something once mattered doesn't mean it still does. And just because something came with love doesn't mean it needs to stay to prove it. Imagine if your home only contained what supported your current chapter. Not who you used to be, not what you might need 10 years from now, just what truly fits your life today. That shift alone would change how you wake up, how you walk through your space, how you feel when no one else is around. Because clutter isn't just in the garage or attic, it's in the bags we never unpack, the receipts we never toss, the notes from jobs we've left years ago. Each item whispers something, and too many whispers become a noise you can't think through. That noise becomes tension. That tension becomes resistance. And resistance blocks flow, especially financial flow. Wealthy people are often not more organized, they're more intentional. They keep environments that support decisions. They don't waste time digging, searching, or avoiding eye contact with that one corner of the house. They walk into their space and feel clear. And that clarity ripples into how they work, how they relate, how they spend and save. It's not about being spotless. It's about being conscious. Start small. One drawer, one shelf, one corner you've ignored. Ask, do I still want this in my future? Not is it useful? Not was it expensive? Just does this support where I'm going? Because every item you let go of makes a little more room for calm, for energy, for wealth. And you might notice once you clear physical space, mental clutter starts to lift too. You'll make decisions faster, sleep better, breathe deeper. It's not magic, it's alignment. And perhaps most powerful of all, you'll stop carrying the weight of someday. The pile of unread books, the treadmill that became a clothes rack, the half-finished project in the corner. These things don't just take up space. They hold your attention hostage. They remind you of what you haven't done. And that quiet guilt is expensive. It drains energy you could use to move forward. So what if clearing clutter isn't about organizing better, but about letting go braver? What if your peace doesn't live in a container store, but in a decision you've delayed making? And this isn't about rushing to clean. This is about releasing with intention, saying goodbye with grace, holding each object with gratitude, and then letting it go, not because it wasn't useful, but because it no longer needs to follow you into what's next. When you create space, life responds. Doors open, ideas return, energy flows, and in that movement money finds you. Not because you chased it, but because you made room for it. So the next time you look at something and think, I should probably keep that. Pause. Ask yourself, is this old energy I'm protecting? Or is this space I'm finally ready to clear? Clutter isn't the problem. Stuck energy is. And when energy moves again, so does everything else. Let it move. Final. Maybe you've realized something by now. Wealth isn't loud. It's not urgent. It doesn't come crashing in like a miracle. It arrives slowly, quietly, and it only stays where the environment feels safe, ready, and clear. Each of the 6 signs we've explored isn't just a strategy. It's a reflection of inner order. Creating value that lightens others, choosing clarity over perfection, moving despite fear, holding space, not clutter, staying open, even when you think you already know, and clearing not just your home but your energy field. These aren't tasks, they're invitations to realign, to reconnect, to remember that your life, your rhythm, your space already holds the roots of prosperity. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to chase more. You simply need to live with greater attention to how your choices daily, quiet, small, are shaping the current that wealth will either pass through or settle into. And if you've watched this far, I want to say something clearly. Thank you. Not just for watching, but for listening deeply. For giving this time, not just to absorb, but to reflect. Because that's what this channel and this journey is really about. Not promises, not pressure, just the kind of clarity that feels like coming home to yourself again. I don't know where you are in your story. Maybe you're rebuilding. Maybe you're rethinking everything. Or maybe you're finally ready to stop trying so hard and start flowing differently. Wherever you are, I want you to hear this. You're not late. You're not behind. You're becoming. And that becoming is more than enough. So as you move forward, may your space be lighter, your mind be clearer, your days be more intentional, and may the wealth you're building inside and out be the kind that stays. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take gentle care of yourself. You're worth the quiet work. Always.